In a narrow street where the lamps glowed like listening moons, there lived a young seamstress named Melis. Her little shop was a world of its own, the window often fogged with her breath and the fine dust of thread. But don't let its humble appearance fool you. Melis's work was the stuff of legends, whispered about in every corner of the city, from the grandest halls to the quietest alleys. You see, Melis didn't just sew with ordinary silk or cotton. She sewed with moonlight. On nights when the moon hung full and low, close enough to almost touch, she would step outside with her spools and bow needles. With practiced, gentle hands, she would draw its silver glow right out of the air, winding it carefully into threads that shimmered with an otherworldly light. Dresses sewn with this thread were more than just garments. They didn't just fit the body. They seemed to remember the heart of the wearer. Joy would stitch itself into the very hems, making them dance and float. Sorrow would hide in the deep, soft folds, offering quiet comfort. Love would warm the cloth like a held hand, a constant, gentle embrace. Melis created these masterpieces with a simple rule. She never asked who the dresses were for. The magic worked best, she believed, when it remained pure, unaware of its final destination. It was an art of intuition, of feeling. But one evening, everything changed. A veiled woman arrived. She moved without a sound, a shadow gliding into the warm light of the shop. Her face was hidden behind a sheer gray veil, and her voice was so soft it felt borrowed from the silence itself. "I need a wedding dress," she whispered, her voice barely disturbing the air. Melis nodded, reaching for her spools of moonlight. "But not with moonlight," the woman said, stopping her. Melis paused, her hands hovering in the air. The woman's gloved hand rested on the counter, and Melis could see it trembling. "Sew it with tears instead." Melis was taken aback. Not collected tears, not some bottled grief from a stranger. The woman clarified, her voice shaking slightly. "My own." And so began a strange and somber ritual. Each evening, as dusk settled over the city, the veiled woman would return to the little shop. She would sit in a corner, her shoulders slumped, and weep. Quietly, without drama, the tears would fall. Melis, with a heavy heart, would sit at her wheel, spinning these tears into thread. The salt from the tears stiffened the fibers, and the raw sorrow seemed to give them a tangible weight. With each stitch, the shop felt colder, darker, as if the grief itself was learning the shape of a gown, weaving itself into the very fabric of the room. Melis worked with meticulous care, her fingers flying over the fabric. The dress grew day by day, a beautiful and heartbreaking creation of pale, heavy silk. It was a masterpiece of misery. On the final night of her work, as she stitched the last seam, her fingers slipped. It was a tiny mistake, a simple prick of the needle. A single, bright drop of her own blood fell onto the pale fabric of the bodice. And then something happened. The dress hummed. It wasn't loud or sudden. It was a low, resonant vibration that seemed to come from its very core. A moment later, the dress breathed out a melody. An old lullaby, slow and aching, a tune woven from the memory of rocking arms and whispered promises in the dead of night. Melis froze, her needle still in her hand. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She knew that song. It was the lullaby her own mother had sung to her, night after night, before a sudden fever had stolen her voice. Before that same fever had stolen everything else. Across the room, the veiled woman stiffened. Her breath caught in her throat. Her hands flew to her veil, her fingers trembling uncontrollably. Slowly, hesitantly, she lifted the gray fabric. And Melis saw a face she had not seen since she was a small child. It was a face etched with lines of loss, older and worn, but the eyes. The eyes held years of unspeakable silence, and a love she had thought was lost forever. "Melis," the woman whispered, and the name was a fragile thing, a ghost on her lips. It was her mother. In that moment, the dress began to glow. A soft, warm light bloomed from the spot where the blood had fallen, spreading through the threads of sorrow. The moonlight, the tears, the grief, and now the blood, they had finally found their truth. The bride wasn't marrying for love. She was marrying to forget a past she could no longer bear to carry alone. The lullaby hadn't awakened a memory within the dress. It had awakened recognition between them. Mother and daughter stood there, in the quiet light of the shop, surrounded by a garment that remembered what they had both tried so hard to bury. It remembered the night the lullaby ended. It remembered all the words that were left unsaid. It held the heavy, suffocating distance that grief had so expertly sewn between them. The dress didn't belong to a wedding. It belonged to a reunion. And as the first light of dawn broke through the shop window, painting the room in soft hues of pink and gold, Maylis realized something profound, a truth her magic had been waiting to teach her. Moonlight remembers emotion. It captures the fleeting feelings of joy and love. Tears remember pain, holding on to the weight of sorrow. But blood remembers who we are. It remembers family. It remembers connection. It remembers home. And sometimes it can stitch a broken family back together, one single, powerful drop at a time. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales from the quiet corners of the world.